It's been 11 days since the Lekki massacre in Lagos, Nigeria, at the time of this recording. And today we're talking about the end SARS aftermath, justice, the rise of the Nigerian youths to end bad governance, and a new Nigeria. We're going to be talking about what's happened in the last 11 days and where are we going from here. And if you're just meeting, my name is Niyi from Encouraging Media, and my passion is to help people who want to grow in their spirituality, connect with God, and experience His presence so they can become all that God has created them to be. And on this channel, we also do conversations on faith, on culture, on spirituality, and how to live a successful life. So whether you're watching this live or you're catching the replay or listening to the audio on maybe podcast, I want to welcome you and thank you for watching. Please do me a favor, click the like button and click the subscribe button, and also leave a comment below and let me know where in the world are you watching from right now. I would like to know where you're watching from. All right, so it's been, like I said, it's been 11 days since the Lekki massacre, and it's been at least 2, 3 weeks, I think, since the protest, the EndSARS protest for 2020 originally started. And so many things has happened. It started as a peaceful protest of young people expressing themselves to say, hey, we've had enough. It's time to scrap this, to end the police brutality, the oppression from those who are supposed to protect. And it's time for us to effect change. We want something different from the usual. And that went on peacefully for a couple days, for almost 2 weeks. And then suddenly we had the violence that happened where innocent lives, peaceful protesters were shot at by the Nigerian military. And yes, the funny thing, there's been so many versions since then. Some people have come out to say, in the beginning, the Nigerian military kind of denied it and said, oh, no, that's not what's happening. And they called it fake news. The governor of Lagos State did a live address where he said, yeah, there were some injuries, but there wasn't really any casualties. And then the president of Nigeria, President Buhari, also gave a speech and, kind of talked about a couple of things, but didn't really talk about the massacre itself and what happened. And so obviously people have been in pain since then. There's been a lot of pain. If you haven't, I want to, invite you to check out we've had this is part three of this recording. So we've done part 1. Part 1 was myself and Dami, which was this one, and that was us kind of talking through and this was before the massacre itself, and we were kind of processing. It was like maybe like 7 days after the protest itself began is when this happened. And so this was part 1 of us kind of talking through what was going on. There's a very fun conversation. If you haven't, please check that out. And then here is part 2. And on part 2, myself and Damilola and a special guest, Pastor Benson, was also live. And we had a fun conversation. This was after the massacre. We kind of, talked about what's going on right now. We kind of talked about, processing through the pain that people were feeling, and how do we process the pain in a healthy way, and how do we move forward. And we raised up so many issues like the issue of pride and greed, the issue of governance. We talked about the structural foundation of Nigeria itself, how the forming of Nigeria in the beginning, way before 1960, we're talking about the 1800s. Like, we have to go all the way back to the beginning to figure out how the country was formed and what are the things that were part of the structural forming of the nation of Nigeria that has maybe affected the way that things have been run since then. Are the police trained to engage people in a protest? Do they know what to do? Do they know the right things to do? Is the government complicit, or are the government just clueless? Is there a gap between the rich and the poor? Again, is there a gap between the leaders, the government, and the people who are supposed to follow? Is there a gap even between the youths themselves, those who are kind of privileged and those that maybe are not privileged because of circumstances beyond their control. So that's some of the things we talked about last week. It was a fun conversation, and today I am excited and ready to jump in. Today I have my brother, my friend, who's going to join me in a couple minutes, and we're going to dive into today's topic together. But I want you to tell me, what do you think about what are your thoughts about what's going on right now, and what do we do? A lot has happened since that. I mean, the international community has finally kind of, you know, jumped in and raising their voice and trying to figure out what's going on. Is that enough? Have they done enough? Has the president done enough? Has the governors done enough? And have the youths done it the right way? What can they do right now? Obviously, there's a lot of a lot has happened between now and then. Some people kind of given up and are choosing to leave the country, Nigeria, and move on to other places, and I don't blame them. Some businesses lost a lot. I mean, there was looting and vandalism, unfortunately, and so many businesses were like basically destroyed, like completely destroyed. A lot of businesses lost thousands and millions in just one day, and it's really disheartening to see that happen. And so, there's blame on both sides, and there's some religious sentiment, there is some tribal sentiment, there is some division maybe, but there is also unity. There's also unity of voice calling for justice for the victims, and for the government to own up to what really happened, how many lives were really lost, and give us the real statistics so that we can grieve well and move forward. So that's where we are at right now, and I'm so excited to jump in today to talk about this. And joining me today is Damilola again. Damilola is an artist, he is a producer, is an all-round nice guy. He's single, by the way, and he's just an awesome guy to kind of process through some of what's going on right now. And thank you, Ajoke, for joining us, who is Dami's mom, actually. Thanks for joining us. Always fun to have you joining us live. Let us know where you're watching from if you're joining us live. All right, so I'm going to bring up my guest, the one and the only Mr. Damilola Afolabi. Hey, man, how's it going, bro?
Hey, Pastor Nee. Good morning.
Good morning. How
Good
are you
morning
doing today?
from this part of the world.
Yeah. Good morning from Redding, California, which is where we both of us are right now. Good morning to everybody watching from Nigeria, from UK, and also wherever in the world you're watching from. So this is going to be exciting. All right, so Dami, I was telling people just before I joined you that today's the 31st of October at the time of this recording. So it's been 11 days since Black Tuesday, the 20th of October 2020. So many things has happened between then and now, and we've had many conversations. But just from your own perspective, what do you think is going on right now? Where are we at right now as far as Nigeria is concerned?
Man, so much has happened in the past 3 weeks, and I believe that since the 20th of October, the Black Tuesday in itself, a large percentage of the population in Nigeria, even in the world, are still in shock.
Mm.
You know, I follow certain threads on Twitter, and I see people, just a lot of young people especially, still finding it hard to believe that these actually happened, in their lifetime,
Mm.
where, young, very positive, a very rare, generation would show utmost patriotism at the point at the point of violence, or at the threat of violence. They stayed calm, and all they did was sing the national anthem and wave the flag, and yet they were met with brute force.
Mm.
You know, for everyone who goes through that moment in their head, it's like, wait. So right now, a lot of people are in shock. A lot of people are traumatized. A lot of young people don't even know how to process. So it's still very very early, and people are still very very raw. And on the other hand, you find another group who are, for lack of a better word, have acted in a very delusional way, not, undermining or downplaying the gravity or the severity of what happened. You find politicians say, "Oh, I mean, oh my God, it was so painful." And I think God has particularly used this opportunity, this event, this sad event hitherto, to to wipe the fog of our lenses, and we begin to see people for who they really are. I saw a footage online of the Lagos Assembly. They were having a plenary session, and I saw politicians. One particular politician had to say, um, "So I was thinking that with all the noise that they were making on social media, I was thinking that maybe 300 or 1,000 people died. I did not, and I sat there and I was like, wait, so because it's not 300, because it's not 1,000, you don't think it is bad enough to even empathize?" So the young people are beginning to realize that, oh man, this is where we are as a nation. And I hear a lot of young people asking, like, how did we get here? How did we get here? And at that point, I begin to realize that actually there's a huge disconnect in this present generation, especially for the latter part of the millennial generation and the Gen Z. They don't know that history is only repeating itself. Because when you look at the events that happened during the SAP riot, the Structural Adjustment Program riots that the University of Benin students did, under Babangida, it was pretty much the same thing. It's pretty much the same thing. Students were killed, student girls were raped. School was shut down for a whole year. Imagine the federal government of at that time shut down school for a whole year. So this is not the first time that huge, terrible things have been done against Nigerians, but we've sort of found a way to just move past it. So, but this time around, I'm seeing I'm seeing a shift. I'm seeing young people saying that we are not going to roll over anymore. We now know who you people are. Some of them might say, I'm Agbaya. But it's when I realize that, oh wow, that this government has no concern, for the feelings and the pains of the Nigerian populace, and they don't even have respect for the commonwealth of the nation, of the people, of the nation. So yeah. So I myself, I'm still processing through grief. I just realized that I could not sit in that swirl for too long, because life is happening, life is moving on. Everything around me is not waiting for me. So one of my instructors had to like advise me, like, damn, things like this happen, and as a creative person, I think what will help you is to find a way to channel that pain, channel the grief, channel the anger, and just channel it towards your work, towards creativity, and see how you can make beauty come out of the ashes. So
absolutely. And wow, thanks for articulately. If you're just joining us once again, we're still talking about the EndSARS. We're looking at the aftermath. It's been 11 days at the time of this recording since the Lekki Tollgate massacre. And we're trying to talk about justice. We're talking about the Nigerian youth and how they are rising up to demand an end to bad governance, and also the talk about the building of a new Nigeria. Is that even possible? What does that look like? That's a lot of what we're talking about. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Let us know where you are watching from. Just like you. I mean, it's been I've been trying to move forward myself and trying to not forget the past, but be aware of the future, especially since our last conversation last week with Pastor Benson, which was an incredible conversation. So many things we talked about in that video that I went back to watch it and I was like, wow, it's so awesome. And but a lot of points you raised really made me think. And personally, for me right now, I feel like the most important thing right now is justice, which is something that has been missing as far as Nigeria goes. We kind of some things happen, and we kind of move on from it. No one talks about it. It just gets buried under the carpet. No one talks about the victims. No one talks about what really happened. How many lives were lost? We have a vague things, and it was short. Yesterday, just some comic relief. So I was um there was some brouhaha a couple days ago about Elliot. For those who don't know who Desmond is a popular actor in Nigeria. A lot of people love him. I mean, I grew up watching Desmond, especially during high school to uni days. He was, a well-known actor, and then turned politician. I think he's in the House of Reps as House of Representatives for the Lagos State
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
government, and he said some things a few days ago that kind of rubbed a lot of youths the wrong way. I haven't watched his actual video, but just from the comments I've seen, I kind of understand why people were being pain. One, he referred to people as children, which
Which,
doesn't
which,
make
which,
sense.
which is a common thing that I've come to find as a term, politicians use. And you think about it, like, if you here in America, you don't find Trump referring to even the youngest American child
Honestly,
in any way.
I think it's this Nigerian mentality, and here's my observation about it. My observation is one. Last week we talked about bridging the gap. There's this age gap that happens in our society, just the way our society is structured. The age gap between the older and the younger generation. And it looks like sometimes the older generation, which is not really bad, but there's this culture of honor that we have as Africans and Nigerians. But generally Africans, we have a culture of honor towards our elders. You're supposed to respect your elders. If you're sitting down and an elder walks in, you're supposed to stand up and give up your seat for the elder. It's kind of like a sign of honor. Of I honor you because you are older and you have more years than I am. So that's a good culture. We have that. That is awesome. Sometimes it goes to the extreme where the elder can sometimes look down on the younger and kind of boss them around just because he's older. And I see that a lot, especially from politicians. Like they get into power, and not just politicians, just like as a culture, people get some authority, and then suddenly everyone below them, if I can use that term, suddenly become less than. And so part of me is not shocked and surprised by the word children, because it's almost like, oh yeah, I don't know if that, I mean, I can't speak for Desmond. And Desmond, if you're watching this, I think you're an amazing guy. I'm not throwing you under the bus. This is just me processing. But I think part of the issue is sometimes people get into authority and they kind of just look down on those below them or those who don't have that same privilege and start to use some terms that sometimes don't make sense. And another video I saw on social media was another woman in the House of Reps also who was kind of comparing Nigerian youths to youths in the UK and saying that a lot of
There's no
Nigerian youths
employment.
are just high
Hardly
on
there.
drugs, and
No
saying I'm
employment.
like, can you just not talk? Like it'd have been better if you don't say. What are your thoughts? It's just it doesn't make sense.
What are my thoughts? Oh my goodness. I was caught between fury and fury and funny, because for me it was almost everything was almost playing out like a farce in my right in front of
Mm,
me, because
mhm,
and and this is why I've come to realize that as a people we need a social cultural reorientation. I
mm,
think Africans don't want to accept the fact that culture is not static,
mm,
that culture evolves, culture moves.
mm,
So, and as culture evolves, we have to evolve with it. Now,
mm,
I realize that for example, take the Yoruba culture for example. And you know what I've come to realize is that what we actually practice culturally is not honor. in its full essence. It's more of a eye service respect. Because you find somebody, showing courtesy for an elder. Let's say the elder comes in and he stands up for the elder to sit down, and then he goes to the other room and completely insults the elder. You understand what I'm saying? So you see people just practice certain cultural things because it is the tenets of what the culture permits, but we don't actually really live the essence of what honor is. So, but then you find what you find happening now is that a particular generation grew up and completely did not, did not resonate with the existing, our daddy before culture. And they are still like holding, the fundamentals of what makes us as African people, the culture. Now, you realize that someone like Desmond Elliott does not know that for this generation, they see respect as a two-way street. You give it and you receive it.
Yep.
In our culture, in Africa, respect does not have to be earned. Respect is demanded. Whereas in the broader scope, if you come to the West, for them, respect is earned. You understand? And there's if you look at it, you can look at it from both ways, like depending on the social dynamic. You understand? But largely, to bring it down so I don't spread the conversation thin, our politicians, our leaders currently don't understand that they have lost the respect of the youth. Largely because they've not lived as leaders with integrity.
So true.
So they come now in their high horse and demand respect and say, oh, you people are rude on social media. Oh, you people are. Whereas when you come out as a politician and release a press statement to the public and say, oh, snake swallowed 36 billion naira. How do you want people to respect you? Like when you actually sit down and frame a press conference statement for media and say monkey came in and ran away with 62 billion. Like, how do you want people to respect you? Now, yesterday I heard, I gathered news that they want to spend 29 billion to print examination papers. Like, so, when people hear these things, like Nigeria now has a generation that will not sit down. Because thankfully now we have social media as a tool where we can all, congregate our thoughts and our ideas and our grievances and our sentiments and air it there. And these politicians use this platform too. So the difference between our generation and the generations before us is they didn't have the opportunity to share their grievances on a global platform. But now we do. Like, if Lai Mohammed now says something that does not really sound constructive to help to move the nation forward, now youth will come out with a video, with a meme that will completely make him look funny before the world,
Yep.
So I think what we have right now is a generation, and it's two things. Two things I've learned in the past 2 days is, one, the fact that you are a young person or you're a youth, quote unquote, does not mean that you have the right set of values to be a good leader.
True.
Or a politician. Then the other thing is that, what was the other thought now? When the current leaders are finding it hard to believe that Nigeria now has a generation that would dare to ask, that would dare to demand for right leadership. Because the resistance you are seeing now from the oppressed is that the oppressors are asking, like, what audacity? how dare you? How dare you question how we'll steal your money? How dare you question how we misappropriate the funds? How dare
Oh my
you?
God, that's so funny. Bro, man, and that is so true. I mean, let's dive into Nigerian youth. Let's dissect the concept of the Nigerian youth right now. We've had different generations of youth. If we look back to our foundation of how we were formed, from in every generation, the youth of every generation has always risen up against the oppressor in one way or the other. Let's go way back to the beginning. When the colonial masters first came, there was a generation that first rose up against them. They were wiped out, obviously, and everyone else had to bow. And then getting towards independence, there was another generation that revolted, and obviously they were killed and wiped out. But eventually we got independence, and then from the first coup to the second coup to the third coup, and then military government, and during Babangida, there was a set of youths that rose up against him. During Abacha, there was a set of youths that rose up against him. During Obasanjo, when it was former President Obasanjo was democratically elected, there was a set of youths that spoke against him. I mean, so it's like every generation, in every generation of Nigeria, there's always been this uprising of young people trying to use their voice, and sometimes they are suppressed, silenced, oppressed, and whatever. But this is it looks like the first time where we have a generation of youths that a lot of them did not grow up during all of that past. It's like a new century for them. Maybe they know the stories. Some of us, even those of us that maybe experienced some of it, were also very young when a lot of those were happening. We're kind of kids, so we kind of saw it. Sometimes you don't understand what's really happening, but you see enough to know there's a problem. And we're kind of like the older millennials right now, but there's a generation of younger millennials and Gen Zs who grew up in social media, who grew up with videos, who grew up watching reality TV, who grew up watching all this stuff, and their cultural perspective is different from a typical Nigerian cultural perspective. And even though our typical culture is respect to elders, listen to what people above you say, and just take it as a truth. There's a generation that is daring to say, hey, if you want me to believe what you have to say, you need to prove to me why I should listen to you. And could this be why it feels like, are we to say that the government, do you think the government is afraid of this set of youth, and are trying to silence them, or do you think they just don't care and kind of doing their own thing where they are, and like, whatever, we've done this, we've been through this before, and we know that you can't win. What do you think about that?
I'm going to respond from two perspectives. One, I believe that beyond every other thing we see play out in the physical right now, that there's a God hand. There's the invisible hand of God. There's something in theater that we say that when it's theater or literature, like when certain things happen beyond the control of human, beyond the control of the characters in play, that you can't really explain it. It's called the hand of God, the unseen hand. And when you look at how things are unfolding gradually, you can see that there's a force bigger than that of man, at play, where it almost feels like some dark players are having the confidence to really show who they really are, and now we are really seeing them, and like, even imagine the case of the palliatives being discovered across so many states. Imagine that. So there's see how the conversation between the army headquarters and Lagos State government, the back and so there's a lot playing out that is still going to unfold more, and you realize that this is God at work. This is the prayers of righteous people. This is the cry. This is justice. This is the gavel of justice coming down. And also you can now see that for the first time in a normal democratic system, there's supposed to be checks and balances. You get, like in America now, you see how, like, Pelosi is always checking Trump, Like what then you have the supreme, the judges. So like everybody's checking everybody, so nobody has an excess, nobody has undue power. So
Mm,
we find that in Nigeria is the reverse is the case. The Nigerian president is if not one of the most powerful presidents in the world in terms of all the powers that they accrue, because everything is directed to the center.
mm,
So the legislature isn't actually, checking the excess of the executive. The
mm,
judiciary is in the pocket of
mhm,
everybody. So
mhm,
there's no watchdog. So you
mm,
find a situation now where a particular generation, you find the youth now saying that, okay, we are going to be the watchdogs.
mm,
We will try, if you guys refuse to try yourself in the judicial court, we will try you in the court of public opinion.
mm,
What now makes our our strategy or our actions more weighty is that with the help of technology like the social media platforms, you have
mm,
a case where everything is now thrown public.
mm,
You understand? So whatever happened in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 50s, in the 80s, in the 90s, they didn't have international coverage
mm,
like it is having now. So you find a situation where Sonwolu is being interviewed by Amanpour on CNN, and she's putting him directly on the spot,
mm,
and he's having to go back on the words he said.
mm,
You find so there's so many things at play here where the government realizes that if they don't answer to us directly, they have to answer to the international body, because you
mm,
find Nigerians writing petitions to be signed to the International Criminal Court to
mm,
someone, to someone the perpetrators of the Black Tuesday massacre.
mm,
So there's a lot at play here where we as a generation we've realized the power that we have and
mm.
how we can wield that. Like we've seen other countries do it in the West. So we're like,
Mm.
why not? Like, yes, we are going to
Yeah.
apply pressure.
Mhm.
Pressure is the language that our government responds to.
Mm. Good question. That's such a good thought. So, I mean, what I'm thinking through right now is so definitely we have a generation that has found their voice and are speaking up and are demanding change and are not willing to accept the status quo, not willing to accept that this is the normal, this is the norm, this is the way things are supposed to be, but are demanding a change in government, demanding a change in structure, demanding a change in the way Nigeria is formed and ruled and governed and the way we do things. Um, I do have a slight concern,
Hmm.
and my concern is how do we prevent this from going to the extreme? Because I mean, I take time to read through comments, and because I know a lot of people. I mean, if you read a post is somebody who has thought through what they want to write. Comments is where people sometimes write things on filter. They're not really thinking about what they are, just saying what they really want to say. So I
Hmm.
like to read people's comments, and I find a lot of comments that make a lot of sense. I find comments that people are just angry. I find comments of people who are just insulting. I find comments of people who are actually just throwing curses. Um, so part of me is like, hey, I want us to be able to um, do this well. We want to have a system of checks and balances, but how do we not go to the extreme where we become the oppressor ourselves? Because, for example, um, I mean, we've seen the cancel culture kind of resurrect again. People like, hey, cancel Desmond or cancel this person because for whatever reason. How do we
Hmm.
not go to the extreme as a nation, as a group of people, and how do we stay focused on the reason why we're actually doing this? We have a goal in mind. The goal is to end bad governance, build a new Nigeria where everyone has the right to rise to the top and be successful. I think that's kind of like my concern. How do we not spiral backwards and just become all about hatred? But how do we actually channel the anger that we feel to move forward into staying focused to what we're actually trying to build? These are some thoughts I'm thinking through right now. What do you think?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a very, very, very great point, and I think it's worth considering, because when you think when you think of the after effects of the Arab Spring, what happened, you realize that, oh, okay, yes, the governments were toppled, but then it led to further anarchy. So, but we don't want the same thing to happen for us here, and I think that's not the plan of God for Nigeria. And as much as, but I also like to balance things out. I think the larger part of this lies with the leaders, the elders, because what they have failed to, a lot of them, what they have failed to do is to actually come out to admit to this generation that we have failed you. Like, to just, and you find that as just the default of the African person. That how many growing up, how many African fathers actually say, "I'm sorry, what I did was wrong." Go to your room, Joe. But you have a generation that they want. That was why there was so much clamor for Buhari to come and speak, because we just wanted to hear your heart, to say, "Okay, we failed you. We are sorry." And this is how we are going to go. So the youth are not actually.
That's true. They're not really asking for much.
The government. They're not actually like, oh, this is they are setting this up for anarchy. People that are angry is just from a place of, they don't know how to. They don't have a language for their emotions, so they just lash out. You understand? So if only it were possible that the leaders will sit down, have a rethink, and begin to say, okay, let us empathize and let us listen. Because even the act of, like, oh, setting up a judicial inquiry, we just feel like they're like, it's like ridiculing our intelligence. So that's why we have young people on that panel, and those guys are like I was reading that at some point, the government brought like a document for them to sign, what's it called now, oath of secrecy, and the youth on the panel like, nope, we're not going to sign this. Like, we have promised everyone that this will be done transparently, and we are going to be giving them feedback on a weekly basis. You understand? So it's those kind of things that we have seen, that even the government has not been sincere. It's more like they are playing to the gallery. So they can do that. That will go a long way. Also, I believe that this is also the time why I feel that certain voices need to rise up and begin to speak. And I think that Pastor Samadeyemi has been doing that fantastically for a long time, and he's still doing that now, where he's not lauding his opinion, but he's just coming to say, hey, what if you do it this way? What if you take this approach? So you find someone like Pastor Samadeyemi, someone like Ado Peterside, the founder of Stanbic IBTC. So you find pockets of people like that who are leaders of leaders. So, and you're seeing them sort of discipling a lot of people from distance, and saying, okay, this is how you can do this. This is how you can do this. So I believe that when young people begin to see genuine, sincere voices like that speak up and say, okay, this is how we can go. This is how we should go. I think it will really help steer us in the right direction, because I think that even among the youth populace, you find that the voices at the forefront don't want complete destruction. They don't want anarchy. They don't want that. You understand? And also, I believe that, man, Nigerians need a whole complete heart surgery. And this is where I also bring it to the emotional part, to the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness. A lot of Nigerians don't even know how to be self-aware. Like, okay, what's going on inside of me? Like, this reaction, what is the cause of it? Why am I acting this way? You understand? Me, I didn't know anything about this until recently, until I started, taking some classes, and I realized that my goodness, like a lot of the habits or a lot of the reactions that I picked up actually have their roots in certain things that happened to me way back in childhood. You
Mm,
understand? So
mm-hmm,
I think Nigerians need the opportunity to be exposed to that process where people can go on that hard journey
mm,
and begin to understand, you know, who they are and begin to give room for healing in their hearts for disappointment on family level, disappointment on a religious level of faith, disappointment from government. So if healing can come into those areas, I believe that we will not even descend into any extreme. And I mean, cancel culture is a byproduct of the internet age. You can't really stop that. You can't really stop
mm.
that. But I think what needs to be done is for people who are mature, who have a higher understanding of how to lead people, like of how to lead by listening.
Mm.
I think
So true, man.
they will be able to bring everybody along. Right now, we don't have leaders that listen. That's why.
That is so true, man. Yeah. I was gonna just pull up a couple things I've seen recently that has actually given me a lot to think about. So, like, let me just show this quickly. I really loved this. I read this from Pastor Sam Adeyemi a few days ago, and it was kind of just processing through, talking to young people and processing through just some practical things to think about, some practical wisdom. And I mean, Pastor Adeyemi has been doing this for many years, like many, many years now, just raising up leaders and teaching leadership and all that. And I felt like this is probably something that people should, kind of read and digest
Mm.
and watch and read. And I saw this also. Somebody posted this from Pastor Pojo Yemade, and he was talking about just the options that we have. And I just like that people like this are kind of giving us some good wisdom. And then there is this one by Pastor um Pastor Dot is Pastor. We mostly call him Pastor Dot. He's based in Jos, Nigeria, and it was kind of talking about how Mandela gave counsel to some people about a one day apartheid is going to end and leaders are going to be required. And right now, it was talking about transformational leadership, and it was saying it's time for African millennials to go beyond schooling to
Mm.
education to contextual literacy, social, economic, and political spheres, because the future of the world is not virtual, it's the establishment of new realities. I was like, wow, that is so true. Like the way we are conditioned to think as Nigerians, we're conditioned to think from a place of the oppressed. We're conditioned to think from the place of, which is not our fault. It's a byproduct of subsequent and successive regimes that has kind of oppressed people. And, you oppress people to a point where they kind of just accept it as normal. It's normal to be oppressed. Corruption is normal. Um, oh, there was something that really upset me about diluting of palliatives. Some which is so for those who maybe don't understand. Recently, during this last couple of days, people found warehouses where there were some food items, especially food items, that were actually assigned to be given out to the populace during the COVID-19 pandemic. There was like different food, bags of rice, bags of, gari, and Indomie, and so many other things like that. They were like this. We're talking about big, giant warehouses because I saw some of the
600, like
videos.
600 food. The one in
Like,
Lagos.
and so they started finding them in different parts of the nation, and people kind of going there and just grabbing. I mean, you can't blame people. I don't blame people who are looting, to be honest, because when you are hungry, you get hungry to a point where you don't care about consequences. But what upset me is when I start to see these people being arrested and paraded on the news or for public, like, oh, we arrested people who are looting. I'm like, for God's sake, is that like what we should be focusing on right now? You're arresting people who are hungry and are just desperate. You've not gone to talk about the victims of the violence. You've not talked about um the the people who loot the treasury for their own personal gain, who loot millions and millions and millions of dollars for their own personal gain. You've not talked about those ones, and you're instead focusing on just poor, innocent people who, yes, they're doing the wrong thing. I don't condemn looting, but man, at some point, can we just be honest with ourselves? Like, these are just hungry people, and just allow them to just survive, you know. But you're not parade them on the public and say we it became a news. We arresting of looting people who are looting warehouses. I'm like, why are we not asking the question? Who is responsible for those warehouses? Why those things kept there and not given to the ones who actually needed it? So if these warehouses were not discovered, these things would have been there and be controlled by a certain group of people. Who are the people responsible to disseminate and distribute those food items to the populace? And why wasn't that done? Why are we not asking that question? I don't understand. And I feel like we need to restore the foundation of justice to our nation. Like, every society has to be built on justice and mercy and truth. Those pillars need to be established in our nation. And until we are honest about what justice really is, which is fighting for those who have no voice, until we get to that point where we have real justice, can we actually really move forward as a nation? Those are things I'm processing through as we're building a new Nigeria. Like, some things don't make sense to me.
Even when see, for me, when I think of the concept of justice,
Mm,
I've even stopped just look at it from from the Nigerian bubble.
mm,
When you think about it, as as the black man,
mm,
has the black man ever been able to receive justice?
mm. It's a good question.
Everywhere all around the world, the black man is always the victim
Mm,
of injustice.
mm,
So you begin to I begin to ask myself, like, what is this? Is there a bigger agenda to this? Is there, I mean, what is going on? What is at play here? Is this some divine thing that will change at some point in time? Like,
mm,
what is the fundamental cause of this?
mm. So true. That gives us something to think about. I think I think that the black race, we all share something in common. Wherever in the world black people are, we all come from the same root, and somehow we have a shared experience that has affected us wherever in the world we come from. If we go back to how did the spread of the black race happen in the first place? I mean, I don't know if black people were traveling before slavery, but
Yeah, some were
slavery,
traveling. Some were
yeah,
traveling. I mean,
yeah.
that likes of this guy from Mali, Mensa Monsu, what's his
Oh
name?
yeah, the richest man in the world
Yeah,
at that time.
yeah,
And then we had the Ethiopian eunuch who went to Jerusalem during the time of the apostles. So
yeah.
yeah, black people were traveling. But I feel like the biggest factor that propelled black people around the world was slavery. And because black people were transported by force, not by their choice, but by force from their homeland and transported to different parts of the world, whether it's the Caribbean, whether it's the US or Europe, and wherever, Brazil and co, Portugal, etc. Just we scattered everywhere, taken from their homeland, violently scattered everywhere, and were not given a voice to actually express themselves. And it feels like there's been this system of suppression of black people over centuries, and almost feels like it's become a norm where it's no longer about the colonial masters. It's no longer about white against black, even though that some of that is still happening. But even black against black, where it's become normal for Black people to be oppressed. That even we sometimes oppress one another, which is what we're seeing in Nigeria right now, and even in different parts of Africa. Should we? And we can talk about Zimbabwe, we can talk about Rwanda, we can talk about these places where Black people are actually oppressed their own kin. And it's like it's become this psyche of oppression. And at the same time, we see the hand of God, almost like when God raised up Moses to say, "Hey, Moses, it's time for my people to go. I'm sending you back to go set them free." It's like in this season, God is shouting from heaven and saying, it's time for Black people to actually experience justice and freedom. And his hand is moving behind the scenes in different ways, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whatever your thoughts about Black Lives Matter, the movement or whatever. I still see the hand of God behind that. Whether it's the EndSARS movement in Nigeria, whether it's the one happening in Namibia, I forget what name it's called right now, or in Cameroon.
Yeah.
Yeah, or in Cameroon or in Namibia, like in different parts of Africa, we see all these voices rising up, demanding change. And the common thing is, bless you, the common thing is the cry for justice. Justice for trafficking, justice for those who are raped, justice for those who are unjustly murdered, justice for those who are stolen from, justice for those who have no voice, etc. There's this cry for justice. And I feel like it's God saying, I am on the justice move right now, and I'm here to set people free. That is what I see. And so how do we as young people partner with what God is doing to see justice prevail around the world for those who have not seen justice happen? What do you think?
I was trying to remember a quote by Martin Luther King that said that I hope I don't butcher it. He said the arc of justice is long, but it's always on the side of the universe or something like that, or it's always on the side of God. Basically, we're just trying to say that no matter how it appears that justice tarries for so long, but at the end of the day, it always happens. And this morning, I was reading the book of Jeremiah. I've been in Jeremiah for a while now, and I was seeing how God was, how God had set Israel to be punished, and He used different countries to punish them. And when it was done, He now told Jeremiah to start, declaring the words of judgment concerning different other nations, from Moab to Ammon, to even Babylon, that he used to punish Israel. Like all those countries experienced their own judgment. But the beautiful thing at the end, when I read I read 48, 49, I realized that for every time God was pronouncing judgment upon this nation, at the end, there was always redemption. We always say, okay, after a few while, they will be restored. And so I'm like, oh, so you realize that if what the Black race is experiencing now is some sort of judgment, there is a hope that at the end of it, there's restoration coming for us. So I believe that restoration for the Black race is going to look like justice. It's going to look like transformation. It's going to look like a whole lot of things. And on the spiritual end, I already see that happen with, when you look at it from the church now, there's, especially in Nigeria, because I connect with a lot of young people, there's a new wave of how church is experienced now. You find young people, you find that let me put it this way, there are new emerging apostolic and prophetic voices in the nation now, and they don't look anything like the Adebo is or they don't look anything like what had existed. So God is working through a new crop of people, and these guys are bold, they are powerful, they are dynamic, they are unconventional, and they're going to continue to move in a way where the wind of revival will blow across the continent. And when that revival begins to happen, revival brings about reformation. Because there's no reformation without revival. Revival is, awakening from the dead. So the Black race is asleep, is in coma right now. but there's a wind that's gonna blow, and from prophetic words, either the one spoken over Nigeria or the one spoken over the new Azusa that will happen here in America. In the prophetic word that has gone ahead, that there will be, the biggest revival that will happen in America will be championed, by the blacks and the browns, just basically, the minority people, the people who have been oppressed, and the ones that God will raise, to lead America forward. And so you can see that being the character of God, where he exalts the low, that the one who has been oppressed for a long time, the Lord reaches down. We say in Yoruba, we say Olowo Gbogboro ti yomo re no fi anye. So he's the one with the long outstretched arm that reaches down into the pit to pull out and exalt. So I believe that more than what we even know now, there's a lot happening. I stumbled on a message of some preacher, I can't remember his name now, who was talking about his experience of what he heard about, and this man is American. He heard the story of certain youths, young folks in Jos, like they're students in school, and when these guys got to pray, that the Lord shows up and he takes them. Like they're in Nigeria, but then their body leaves and they go to places in Asia to evangelize and minister to people. Those kind of things don't get coverage, but they're happening. They are happening. So I think we are at the precipice of another supernatural wave that will blow through Nigeria and the entire continent. Things that have not been seen, heard, things that the mind of man has not even imagined. And I think God is doing that quick work. And there are so many people that will begin to emerge from obscurity. And the question will be that, where are they from? Who are they? And the biggest error the church will do will be to question the hand of God upon them.
Wow. So good. So good. That gets me excited. Thinking about the new Nigeria excites me because there's been so many prophetic words about when Nigeria rises, Africa is going to rise, and Nigeria has so much influence as far as Africa goes. We're respected. We have the largest population, I think, as far as
largest black population in the world.
Largest black population in the world. So we have the numbers, we have the intellect. We're one of the most brilliant people in the world. I mean, go to any strata of society anywhere in the world of any major thing happening, I bet you will find a Nigerian somewhere there who is part of the team. And so it's like, I almost feel like God has raised us up. And it's not just for ourselves. What we're going through right now, the birth pains we're going through right now, is not just for Nigeria. It's actually for the entire global world. That as soon as we start to experience the freedom and the grace, and we step into our identity that God has designed us for, it's going to affect the entire world. Literally, there's going to be a revival and a reformation all around the world. That excites me. Yeah. All right. As we start to go closer to the end, let's dream about a new Nigeria. Let's spend a few minutes dreaming. What does a new Nigeria look like? Let's try to picture it. Let's look beyond everything going on right now. What do you think a new Nigeria is going to look like all across the board?
I think a new Nigeria is going to look like a new way where people do family. I think a new Nigeria is going to start from homes. It's going to start from homes. I think a new Nigeria is going to start from where parents, create an atmosphere in their home for people, for create an atmosphere of freedom, unity, honor, and true love. I think it's going to start from the home, and because if you get it right from that level, if you get it right at that point, it's just going to just filter through. And a new Nigeria looks like, because the truth is, you can have infrastructures, you can have good economy, and still have a handicapped nation. There's so many countries in the West that have good economies and infrastructure, and yet you can know that there's something wrong with this country.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Case in
mm-hmm.
point, where we did.
That's all I got to say.
But I see that's why I feel like at the very cellular level, which is the family unit, I
Mm,
see a new Nigeria where unity, unity is a strong core value.
mm,
Because I use my own family as an example. Like there's one thing that my father did right was to ensure that he raised us with that mindset that we are one. So my dad
mm,
will always say, as for this family, oh, it is all for one, one for all.
mm,
Whatever affects you affects me.
mm-hmm,
And it's not like we are like Dangote or Bill Gates yet, though, but we're
mm,
raised up in that way where even many years after when people have their own families now, we still
mm,
have that connection.
mm-hmm,
So I think if Nigerians begin to now move past that, move past nepotism, move past every isms and schisms, tribalism,
mm,
all these things, and
mm-hmm,
begin to now exist as Nigerians, where I see an Igbo man from the east, I see him as a brother, as a
mm,
Nigerian, not as
mm-hmm,
someone who's chasing Biafra. Or I
mm,
see a sister from Kafanchan, I see her first as a Nigerian, and I already see and and I see that already happening with this generation, especially from the EndSARS movement,
mm,
where people were relating with one another as kinsmen, as kindreds, not as people from other tribes. And
mm,
I think that's what and I think what really happens, the effect of that happens when you struggle together and you bleed together. When
mm,
people fight for one cause and they bleed together for that cause, it binds them together in a strange way. That
mm,
when you look at America, it was the war, the revolution that gave the strength for the 13 colonies to come together to
mm,
unite. And that's why when you see the flag, you see the stars and you see the
mm,
red lines.
mm,
So I think that picture where we saw blood stains on the
mm,
Nigerian flag is so prophetic.
mm,
It's a prophetic symbol of a new Nigeria. People can look at it and be like, this is too gory. Oh, this is negative. Oh, this is a bad
mm,
omen. No, it's a figure. It's a symbol. It's a symbol.
mm,
I'm trying to find the word in literature now. It's so symbolic for what the new Nigeria represents. I
mm.
mean, when a new child is birthed, the child does not come out looking fresh, with very cold and smelling like
Mm.
Burberry. No, the child has blood. The
Yep,
child
true.
has blood on it,
Mm,
on it. So,
mm-hmm,
so I believe that that birthing has already happened in the spirit,
mm,
and what we are seeing now is men and women of God, sons and daughters, watching, holding the gates, watching the gates, and making sure that is manifested, just like how Daniel pressed in to see the deliverance for Israel. Even when the prince of Persia and the prince of Greece, the principalities at that time didn't want that to happen. So
mm,
we are seeing people, pressing in and saying that we will see the full manifestation of a new Nigeria in our
mm.
lifetime.
Amen. So good. Wow. Just as you were speaking, I was just imagining it. And first, I want to just say a big thank you to all the Nigerian youths, especially to those who put their lives at risk and kind of were at the forefront. I know that it was said it was a leaderless protest, but there were definitely some key people that definitely kept the momentum going. I mean,
Yeah,
Falls the bad guy, Mr. Macaroni, DJ Switch, Aisha Yeshufu, so many other names that I don't know, but I know the faces. The people that kind of there was this woman who went to the protest with her baby. I don't know
yeah.
who she is. People like that who kind of stood there. I mean,
Even the
Samuel.
girl that said Buhari is a bad boy.
you know, it's just incredible to see all these people rise up. I mean, from all the communities, from the Christian community, from the Muslim community, from different communities, people just coming together as one, demanding change. I would never forget that. I'm so proud that I saw that in my lifetime. I got to see that people coming together for change. That is just powerful. To those who To those who lost their lives, um, your your life is not going to be in vain. We promise you that we will deliver a new Nigeria, that we won't stop fighting for what you gave your life for. We're going to fight for that peace and unity. For the victims, for those who um, either was shot or wounded, brutally assaulted, whatever, we empathize with you. We're praying for you, and your struggle is not going to be in vain. And to all of Nigerian youths and everyone watching, youth or not, but to all Nigerians, this is a season, this is a marathon. This is not going to be a sprint. Things are not going to change overnight. It's going to be a long journey, but it's going to be a beautiful journey if we all choose to focus on what we are fighting for. And I believe that new Nigeria is going to start with new core values, the core value of justice, the core value of making sure everyone has a voice and everyone has a right to speak, even if what they are saying does not make sense. At least give them a voice, let them speak out first. Then we can always work on what they are saying. Everyone has a voice, everyone has opportunities to rise up to the top. It's not about what family you are born into, but there's a level playing field where if you work hard and you do the right thing, there is a chance for you to be successful. And core values of identity. We need an identity of who are we as Nigerians. We have been defined as so many things. It's time for us to actually figure out who is a Nigerian and put language to that so we can rally around a vision. We need leaders with vision, visionary leaders that can paint a picture for us that we can all ascribe to and say, yes, that is what we see. And we're giving our stamp of approval to that. And these are just a couple of thoughts. So many prophetic words that's been coming out about Nigeria in the last couple of years. And it gives us hope that things are going to change. It's going to be awesome, incredible, and amazing. So as we just bring this to a close gradually, want to thank you for watching again. Hey, please remember to click the like button, subscribe, leave a comment below. What do you think a new Nigeria is? Leave a comment below. Let us know your thoughts. What are you planning? What are you dreaming of? What are you saying or thinking? And we want to thank everybody for watching, looking through the comments. Thank you so much, gracious greatness. It's such a pleasure to always have you join us. Thank you so much to Ajoke Afolabi. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to have you watching from Lagos, Nigeria. Psychology sport. Thank you so much for jumping in. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much, Alala Deolua Toby. I think I said your last name wrongly. I apologize for that. You first saw me, Tolu Alao. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you. And for everyone who joined us live, thank you. For those who are watching the replay, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe. Let's keep this conversation going. God is on the move in Nigeria. Things are changing. It might look hard right now, but the voice of justice is going to prevail. And we are going to see a new Nigeria established on justice. Anyway, love you guys, and I will talk to you soon. Peace.